Chapter 2. After breakfast, Tessa's star day was basically back-to-back classes. Some flew by like a comet. Others seemed to last an entire cycle of life. So much of what the professors taught had already been covered in the special Stardarlings class. Tessa's final class before Stardarlings lessons was wish fulfillment, taught by Professor Eugenia Bright. Usually, Tessa paid attention to Professor Bright's lessons. The teacher was warm and engaging, and cared about each student. Besides, Tessa wanted to raise her grade. That day, Professor Bright was lecturing about wish fulfillment history, how Starlandians had first discovered their connection to Wishworld. During a space exploration trip, the teacher explained, scientist Dusty Particulus forgot to transfer shooting stars. She wound up landing near a group of wishling stargazers, just as they wished on a different shooting star. One wishling said, "I wish I could come face to face with someone from another planet." So, Dusty stepped right in front of her, and suddenly, a surge of energy. Yes, it was starmazingly interesting. But Tessa had heard the story so many times, she found her mind wandering back to the Stardarlings meeting. It was true. Much had gone wrong for the Stardarlings. Right there on Starland, there had been the band tryouts, the flowers, the nail polish, the holotexts, and of course the power failures that affected the whole planet. And they'd had trouble on Wishworld, too. There had been Leona's burnt-out wish pendant that lost wish energy, and her scary trip back, when she almost hadn't made it home. And all the Starlings' misidentifying of wishers and wishes. But Lady Stella? How could some of the Stardarlings think she was responsible? Excuse me, Tessa." Tessa looked up. Professor Eugenia Bright was standing over her desk, smiling. They were the only two in the classroom. "Is there something you'd like to discuss with me?" the teacher asked kindly. Tessa eyed the professor. She had to say something, but she certainly couldn't say she'd been lost in thought, wondering if Lady Stella was sabotaging Starland. "I like your earrings," she sputtered. She turned deep green with embarrassment, but it was true. She did like them. The glittery cylinders hung almost to Professor Bright's shoulders and twirled when she moved, giving off sparks. They were exquisite and classic, and must have come from Starland's most acclaimed jewelry store, Star Ears, where the rich and famous shopped. Professor Eugenia Bright lowered her voice. "I found them at the Brilliant Bargain Basement in Old Prism. Sure, it's a tourist town, but you can still find star-amazing deals there." Tessa laughed and stopped worrying about Lady Stella and Stardarling's problems, at least for the moment. That afternoon, Tessa joined the Future Farmers of Starland After-School Club. They visited a new colony of glitter bees at the foot of the Crystal Mountains. And it was well worth the trip, Tessa thought on the way back. One delicatacomb in particular was starmendous, as big as a star car. Plus, she even managed to bring some of the sweet liquid back to campus. It was starific for baking. But now, standing in front of Halo Hall, saying goodbye to her fellow future farmers, Tessa felt restless. She paced back and forth, her mind returning again and again to Lady Stella. She thought fleetingly of her overdue Wishworld relations paper. She even took a few tentative steps toward the library. But how could she settle down to work when her mind was in such a state? Tessa's feet switched course, and she found herself heading to the Celestial Café. "I'll just bake for a star hour or so," Tessa thought. "It will calm me down, help me focus, and then on to my Being Human paper." "You're still working on that?" Cassie asked. Tessa hadn't realized that she'd spoken out loud, or that Cassie was walking next to her. She shook her head to clear it. She really did need to bake. Yes, but cross my stars I'll get an extension. I'm still waiting to hear from Professor Margaret Dumar. Right now I'm going to the kitchen. Cassie brightened, and her pale skin glittered, showing her interest. Are you baking? Can I tag along? I promise I won't talk about Lady Stella. We can agree to disagree until more facts are in. Of course. It would be an opportunity to find out about the caves with Cassie. Usually when she baked, every bit of her energy went into creating the perfect dish. But this time she'd multitask. Smiling, she motioned for Cassie to join her as she stepped off the cosmic transporter. I want to use fresh delicata, Tessa went on. So I'm thinking about mini comet cakes. Only instead of sparkleberries, I might add cocoa moons with a starburst of solar cream. Said Cassie as they entered the kitchen. Sounds tremendous. What can I do to help? For starters, set the microzap for ammonium and 4 degrees. The two girls got to work, Tessa humming as she measured and mixed, crimped and coated, sometimes telling Cassie what to add. A flounce of milk, 2 quacks of sunflower, a zing spoon of sparkle sugar. Then she poured the batter and popped the tray into the microzap. 2.67 starsecs, she instructed Cassie. She grinned happily. Star salutations for your help. Then she remembered. The whole time she was supposed to have been getting more information. Before she could say anything else, the comet cakes were ready. There were 12 mini comet cakes, 1 for each star darling. Tessa couldn't help admiring the treats, with their perfectly round shape and tapered tails made from starberries. The bright red fruit looked just like a comet's fiery stream. Cassie sniffed. They smell so good. Can I have mine now? Tessa grinned. Tell you what, let's have as many as we want. Then we can make another batch. Cassie stretched out her hand, but Tessa held the tray high over the small starling's head. It was a little unfair, she knew, to hold back the treat, but she had to work fast now to get some information, and she knew from when Gemma was younger that this was the best way to get it. Tell me what you and Scarlet were whispering about on the cosmic transporter this morning. What? I don't know what you mean, Cassie said, turning away so she wouldn't have to look Tessa in the eye. Oh, I think you do. Tessa sounded more confident than she felt. I distinctly heard you say star caves, and I bet you two are convinced those caves have something to do with your Lady Stella suspicions. The caves were real, not a theory or an idea, and they were something Tessa could reach out and touch, something that could hold solid proof of Lady Stella's innocence. Or guilt, Tessa thought for a star sec, before she could help herself. She lowered the tray and waved it tantalizingly under Cassie's nose. Oh, okay. Cassie grabbed a cake. She paused to take a bite. Scarlet's explored the caves. She found another entrance, and she's gone down a bunch of times. I guess she likes the bit-bats and the feel of the tunnels, the mystery and the isolation. But it's not as if she's found anything revealing there. Is that all? Tessa asked, disappointed. Well, I have my own ideas about the caves. Cassie went on. There are so many twists and turns. They could hold so many secrets, and they're so closely tied to our missions, I just feel there could be clues down there. Answers to what's been going on. Exactly, Tessa exclaimed. So what are you two going to do next? For your sleuthing? Nothing, said Cassie, squirming a bit. Was Cassie skirting the truth? She seemed uncomfortable, and Tessa guessed the Starling didn't really like to lie, so she didn't want to call her on it, but she needed to keep pressing her. The next time Scarlet explores the caves, we should go too, Tessa said. We may spot something she's missed. Tessa gave a little shudder. Really, the last thing she wanted to do was trek through those damp, spooky tunnels. Going with the Stardarlings to their special wish cavern was one thing, but just roaming around, unescorted, was a galliope of an entirely different color. Meanwhile, Cassie had polished off 4 comet cakes and was reaching for a 5th. Well, I can ask her. I have no idea what she'll say, though, and there's no way we can go alone. We don't even know how to get in. Cassie popped the round cake into her mouth and sighed. These are really good, Tessa. I wish I could bake like you. You can, said Tessa. You already watched me once, so this time when I bake, holovid me with your Stars app and use it for reference. Can I borrow yours? Asked Cassie. I brought mine in for repairs. It's been weird lately, and I haven't been able to get holo messages or even send them. Uh-huh, Tessa murmured, not really listening. Already she was measuring sparkle sugar and pouring it into a bowl. Maybe this time she'd add just a flicker more delicata.